Let's give them something to talk about. I see the energy running out. I got a planet to run around. Okay. You ain't do nothing but run.
I do really like that overlay. I pick pictures. I tried to find a picture. Anelyse is very humble with her Instagram and her social media. You would have to dig really, really deep to find a picture of just Anelyse. It's always multiple children, friends, family, husband, in-laws in your pictures, like all of them. I'm like, I literally went to like cut you out and just so I could just put you in the banner. And then I literally had like tugs at my heartstrings. Like, I can't do that.
Give the people what they want. Those kids are cute.
We'll give the people what they want. The preamble to this podcast, by the way, all of our preambles is usually where there's really entertaining discussion going on. Nice one. Jamie's mic fell apart. But the preamble to these podcasts, we're in a studio, or even when people dial in, the preamble is usually very, very funny and very unconventional, and even sometimes a little bit weird. But if you subscribe to our, what is it, the subscription service that you got that's
StreamYard.
Yeah, something StreamYard or something. If you subscribe, we'll compile that for you and we'll send it out to you, or we'll let you in. That's what we'll do, is we'll let people into the studio early so they could partake in the discussion that we had, like say with Anelyse, about aliens, God, pyramids. What else did we discuss?
A lot of the moon landing.
Moon landing.
Yeah, we got on that one.
Yes, don't worry. I think the moon landing happened. Don't attack me yet.
It wasn't until you saw the India's satellite, though.
Well, yeah, kind of. There is an Indian satellite that orbits the moon, and then it took actual pictures of the landing sites with the moon landers on them. You all right over there, Jamie?
Yeah, I just keep muting my mic so you don't hear it.
All right. Well, don't mute. If you mute the mic, it mutes everything.
It's my mic
Okay,
on the actual mixer board.
Right. So we realized one time he muted, and so because he controls the sound for the entire room, so he hit mute, and so then we're thinking he's muted so he could work on something. It turns out he muted the whole podcast.
Well, he's learned his lesson.
Yes. Well, welcome, Anelyse.
Hi.
Anelyse is here. I told her it wasn't my idea to have her on, which it wasn't. Though I agree.
It's not like he didn't want to have you on.
No. I agreed as soon as like 2 or 3 people told me you need to have Anelyse on. And I thought, man, that's brilliant because I follow you, and then I've known you for over 10 years now. And I love the stuff that you're doing with while raising your kids. But before that, I became interested in all of your discussions regarding your experience with training while pregnant, and then post-pregnancy especially. Anelyse, again, she's been with us since 2013.
Earlier.
Really?
Okay,
and we're actually waiting for you to get certified so you can come hang out with us even more.
Here's Diablo trivia for
Okay.
you. I came in on a free Saturday. Mountain was my coach. I, at the time, was in college, so I bought a 20-pack of classes.
Really?
I used to sell 20 packs of classes.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And I did my red, blue, and yellow elements
classes
with Rex, Tammy, and Jamie. So I think that was like 2012.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't see that in
Mind
Body. No, I didn't see it in Mind Body because I looked on Mind Body and all I saw. So it must have been like a new account got created. Oh no, they're working on the fire.
I was gonna say, we got
they're working on the fire sprinklers. Are you all right over there with that thing?
I'm getting there. I might just go like this.
So anyway, 2012.
Yeah, and then Brian and I joined when we got married in 2014. I had to talk him
There was
into
a little bit of time, yeah.
Yeah, I had to talk him into
Didn't you get
CrossFit.
it for like a gift or something, like for him to come on?
Yeah, because I was, kind of bothering about it. Like, I think you would really like this. I think this would totally be your jam. And he was like, CrossFit. And like, no, thank you. And then he came and did a free Saturday class without telling me. threw up in the parking lot and was like, I'm in. This is the one. And
Oh,
then
that's awesome.
did his elements class. And then for Christmas was like, all right, we're doing a
That's
couples
awesome.
membership.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
He did it without you and without not telling you. And
It's
so
the beauty of a fire schedule. And at the time I was a teacher, he had, days where he could sneak in and do a class.
it's cool that okay, I don't want to pick on Brian. I love Brian because you guys are an amazing athlete and he's an amazing fireman and he's a great father and everything else. One of the things we like to tease him about is Brian will show up with more endurance-y type workouts because he's an incredible runner.
He's kind of a little cherry picker.
Yeah, and so
Maybe a little bit.
Well,
we
we all are. Like if you go back, once the artificial intelligence is there for us to go back and look at track workouts and see what we lean into, I think we'll find that we all kind of cherry pick once in a while.
Well, the man's favorite workout is Murph. So he
Yes.
just is drawn to different workouts than the rest of us, and his work schedule just happens to.
So
help
his first workout was the newbie, which is a bit of cherry picking.
Yeah.
Because the newbie, so the newbie, by the way, this is for affiliate owners. We used to do a free class on Saturdays, and at the free class, we would either do the class workout or scaled version of class workout, and it was every week was different. What we found was with that free class is that people would show up, and we're just doing the free class because it was a different workout every Saturday. So it became their Saturday was their CrossFit workout at Diablo CrossFit. So my partner at the time, Jeremy Jones, was brilliant. Said, look, here's what we do. First of all, we create a workout where someone can't get hurt, but they can go hard and they get feel the experience of CrossFit. And it'll be the same workout every time so that the people come, they're gonna be like, oh, and it happened. It was like 2 or 3 people. I remember this saying, well, this is what you guys did last week. Well, yeah. Yeah. So
by design.
So yeah, we figured it out. That's why you were coming.
Yeah.
And so, but the workout is that we created is a 400. So opens up with a 400.
It's like the
run.
baseline.
Yeah,
just with the run.
400 meter run, 10 pull-ups, 20 push-ups, and 30 sit-ups. I think, right? 10, 20, 30.
I think it was
squats.
I think it was squats. I don't think we did. No, we did sit-ups. It was 10, 20, 30, 40.
Yeah,
Ended with the 40
that's right. 10,
squats.
30,
Yeah.
40. Yeah, 40 squats.
And it was an AMRAP, but you had to do the buy-in for the run and then come back around and finish off.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You can.
Yeah, so you had we made it an AMRAP. That when you make it an AMRAP on a free class, so that everybody finishes at the same time, and that way and that worked brilliantly. Like it's called the newbie, and every once in a while Jamie will throw it into something. But Brian came and did that workout, and that was the trap, right? Because so it drew him in because he's going to crush that. Yeah. So I imagine he blew out that 400.
Well, like you said, he threw up.
I could totally see it because he would be like, "Oh, I'm going to smash this."
Yeah, and that's when he was like, "All right."
Oh, and then he got
this is cool. This is cool. Yeah. That's great that it's like that hits at so many people where it's like, oh my God, it made me so sick. I'm going to come back tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
And he made it to quarterfinals this year. And he's a part-time CrossFitter. By that I mean, and I don't mean it like he's not training for the quarterfinals. Yeah. He's training for his work, for his life, and he fits in. He gets here when he can, and he works out obviously at the station when he's there. But we'll see him in spurts when he's got a few days off. He'll come in. He trains hard, and he made it to the quarterfinals. And he did what was really cool is he did the quarterfinals. He worked hard to get them all in. It was really cool.
Yeah, because it wasn't ideal with his work schedule to get them all in.
Yeah,
and he was a little self-deprecating. Like, I don't think I should do this. Like, hey, if you were a runner and you qualified for the Boston Marathon, you would run the marathon.
And
like,
right. Well, and he sent me I think he either sent me a nice message or he told me in person, one of the two. They all blur together at this age. But he said that he really enjoyed the experience. He's glad he did it. And he said it was a good test. Like he figured out kind of where it was a good assessment for him, like to know where he is with his fitness. Yeah. It was a reality check in a sense.
Yeah.
And he said it was a positive reality check.
Totally. I was really proud of him.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
He's awesome. We weren't supposed to talk about Brian till the end. And it was like, and we have a maybe next to him. Like, maybe we'll talk about Brian.
Love Brian.
Yes, we do. So, all right. So you came, and then your fitness here, I watched and Jamie watched, like your fitness, like just took off. Like you got stronger, you got good, you're top of the leaderboard. And then Brian got you pregnant.
Yep.
And after your first, well, did you train during pregnancy with your?
I've trained CrossFit through each pregnancy and postpartum, but like very differently through each one. So I got pregnant with our first in 2019. And I think at that time, there just wasn't a lot about how to CrossFit pregnant. There was one printout that said like sub this movement for this movement. And I just kind of didn't know how to approach CrossFit pregnant. So
what year was that?
2019.
2019.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think ended up losing a lot of fitness. I didn't necessarily need to in that pregnancy because I just didn't have a guideline. And I wouldn't let
fear more than anything.
Kind of out of fear. Yeah. I was really afraid of getting a huge diastasis. You're told not to let your heart rate get above a certain range, which is like 140.
Actually, I remember.
Don't go upside down.
I remember having those conversations with you about the heart rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think my approach to CrossFit in that first pregnancy was like overtly cautious. First time mom, makes sense. And then even postpartum, had no idea how to come back postpartum. And so I just went so slow, but had no idea what I was doing. And then so second pregnancy, learned a little bit more, kind of went based on like rate of perceived exertion. And then really learned about like breath work.
Yeah.
And how your pelvic floor and your diaphragm and your low back are all connected. And so this third pregnancy, I've had all these kids pretty much back to back to back. They're all 21 months apart. This third pregnancy, probably my body is the weakest. My foundation wasn't as strong as that first pregnancy, but knowing what I know now, it's been awesome. Knowing how to breathe properly, wearing barefoot shoes has actually helped my postpartum fitness like a crazy amount. And then kind of like relearning breathing patterns, because to engage your deep core is not kind of what we're told in heavy lifting, to like push air out, there's a lot of like coordination that you have to like learn.
Yeah. Like the timing aspect of like when to breathe. And
and I think for like CrossFit women in general, we just don't know a lot about how well our pelvic floor works for us. And a lot of women are super strong here or just in CrossFit in general. And your pelvic floor is meant to act like a trampoline. It needs to hold these organs and be strong, but it also needs to be able to relax. And most of us are just like tight and strong. And so learning how to use my breath properly to engage, to relax when the time is needed to execute movements, has been like just a game changer.
One of the things you said, you talked about the flat shoes.
Yeah.
Why? How has that helped?
You know how like podiatrists, chiropractic people, everything's connected to the spine, everything's connected to the foot, pelvic floor people.
It's your foundation.
They all kind of say the same thing. So I think something about wearing barefoot shoes has changed just the way I'm standing. Yeah. And so my lap and my seat are just engaged in a different way when I'm walking, standing, breathing. It's just helped my movement patterns more. Yeah. Which has then like how I even stack my ribs over my hips is just improved. Yeah.
So that's interesting to me. So I was given that advice with respect to plantar fasciitis.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've had it a couple times, but the last time I had it, it was the most severe I had, and I had it almost 7 months before I ran into Greg Spiker, who's a runner, and he does barefoot running with sandals as often as he can. And when he's not running with barefoot sandals, he's running with like barefoot shoes,
minimal shoe,
minimal shoe where it's flat. And he explained to me, look, it's the arch has to work. It's when you have the bigger sole shoes, you strike differently. So you get a different movement pattern. He goes, you need to be striking on the ball of your foot, rolling, and then slight, touch of the ground with your heel. The heel should not be impacting. And so then I'm like, okay, he goes, to start just doing some barefoot walking. And that's what I did. I did some barefoot walking. I would do like 100 meters, and I'd do it on the sidewalk even. And almost within a week, my plantar fasciitis improved, and then it improved like dramatically. So I switched. Everything I have is 0 drop shoes, so flat shoes. So I know there's something there where it's all interconnected and tied together. That makes a lot of sense,
especially when you think about it from like the weight from the baby coming and how it changes the body and how you're standing and distributing your weight in your feet.
Totally.
Now you actually have a solid,
Yeah.
you have more control at the foot.
Absolutely.
Versus the shoe putting you in a weird position.
Yeah, your progression as a CrossFitter, if you're, your progression during your pregnancy and that lack of information, because if I pull up your profile on the CrossFit Games leaderboard, where she was in 2017 in Northern California, she was 1,313th in Northern California, and then you go to 2019, she didn't even register a score.
Yeah, I was in 2019, a tricky one because that was the year of 2 opens.
Yeah.
That's right.
That was
Yeah.
the weird.
That's right.
So
and we had one in October. That's right.
First one was I had just found out I was pregnant.
Right.
And I think I did the first 2 workouts. And then the last one in October, there's a picture of me.
Yeah.
Super pregnant.
Yeah.
And when you enter, and I
that's right.
went to the hospital that night. So,
oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Anelyse went to the hospital during one of our Friday night lights.
Yeah. Well, and that story has taken on like such a cool false story that I actually like so much better.
The water broke and
Yeah.
she was
mid-workout.
We were
Totally.
gathered around
That's
and the
like
baby was delivered.
So not what it is, but like I kind of love that story more. Yeah. I actually came to judge that day.
Right.
So I was feeling really lousy. I was having really weird symptoms.
Uh-huh.
And I was ignoring those symptoms because pregnancy is weird. I was kind of like, this is just part of being pregnant. My hands were super itchy and my feet were super itchy. Weird, right?
Okay.
Were you
Like,
at full term then?
I was 30, had just 38 weeks.
Okay.
But I was like wrapping my hands in ice. Like it
Oh,
was
wow.
like
Okay.
crazy itchy. And
Yeah.
I was like ignoring it because I was like, pregnancy is weird.
Isn't that weird? Pregnancy is weird, but
Pregnancy
that's
is
like
weird.
one of those signals or something, like
Well,
needed like
Apparently.
some
Yeah.
great grandma legacy or lore to be passed down.
Right,
Like, your
yeah.
hands will get itchy.
yes, right. Like I had no idea. So I, emailed my doctor, I think like 3 a.m, like, hey, I'm going nuts. I'm really itchy. Sorry, I'm probably being super dramatic. Like, just tell me to take a Benadryl or something, And then she called me and was like, you need to get your blood tested immediately. And I was like,
Uh-oh.
okay, sure. So I went and did a blood test, came here to judge workouts. And right when I was about to judge Chris McCrary, I got a call saying like, you need to come have your baby tonight.
Oh, wow.
My liver was in liver failure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And makes your hands itch and makes your feet itch. They have no idea what causes it other than genetics. But I hold this guilt because when I was judging Chris, I miscounted him
Oh, shit.
because my mind was like, oh my gosh, my liver's failing. I have to go have a baby,
Oh,
but I'm
man.
going to judge him because I said I would. And I
Oh
remember
my God.
miscounting. And I remember him getting frustrated because he takes it serious.
Oh,
and I just was
man.
like, I just disappointed him. I ruined his workout.
Did you ever tell him?
No.
Oh, he's listening. I hope he hears this right now.
I'm sorry, Chris. That was the reason.
I'm sure he's
Yeah, he's
okay with it.
understanding.
Is over that.
Yeah.
That's so Chris.
So then I went in that night, had to be induced, and then I had the baby on Sunday. So it was
Wow.
2 days later.
That's
Um,
crazy.
Yeah.
Good thing you spoke up though.
Yeah, I ended up getting that. So it's called cholestasis.
Okay.
The pregnancy. They don't know what
That's
causes it.
the medical term
Yeah,
for
and I've actually have
itchy hands.
itchy hands, feet. It's your liver dying, and making your blood toxic. Which I was like, oh, okay, that was serious. I've gotten it actually in all 3 pregnancies.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
kind of a bummer, but
Yeah.
yeah, the
We're-
kids have been very healthy.
Good.
So.
Brian texted me, where's the live comment section on this Jam Up Brian segment? So good. I don't know where it is. The comment section, you find it to the right of the video on a computer screen. I don't know where it is, like on a phone.
Yeah.
You click the little dial, the settings dial, I think, and it says
Does
chat.
it even come up on a phone?
It does. You can chat on a phone,
Okay.
but it's got to be the small version of the
Got it.
video. I've seen it. I just don't. You're asking this wrong.
Like you got to minimize it.
You
or
are
something.
asking the wrong guy, by the way. If you're going to text someone, text Jamie Lee or Anelyse on that question. So after that first pregnancy, you went really gradual coming back. Did you have pelvic floor issues?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so with that baby being
And,
induced,
and what does that mean?
Yeah.
Pelvic
Sure.
floor issues, if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
Okay.
So that particular baby had to be induced. His head was in the 99th percentile. It was 4 hours
Smart
of
kid.
Yeehaw.
smart kid, 4 hours of pushing.
Yep.
So a lot of trauma to the pelvic
Yeah.
floor. So just like general weakness, a lot of uncoordination. So things with like running, anything where my feet were making impact with the floor would cause stress incontinence. So just leaking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
That was my main symptom. And then a lot of pain in my ribs for my diaphragm, just maybe trying to overcompensate.
Push or not during the pushing or the
maybe,
labor,
there
but
may have been a lot of just strain.
yeah.
But it lasted really like kind of a long time.
Really? Okay.
Through healing. So
Interesting.
yeah, mostly that. And so I didn't know how to train properly coming back. How do you, I don't know, repair your pelvic floor?
Did you end up seeing a pelvic floor
I've
specialist?
seen a few pelvic floor therapists, and some experiences have been more disappointing. They'll tell you a lot of like, do Kegels, which is just going to tighten, which most people probably need, like a tightening, where I needed to be able to relax. I needed to be able to have some coordination of those muscles. And they didn't really understand my goals. When I told them like, this is what I'm trying to get back to, they're kind of like, you want to do what?
Right.
Even my last pelvic floor therapist with this third baby, I said, I want to be able to jump on my trampoline with my kids.
Yeah.
And she laughed. I was like, no, I'm serious. Like, I'm going to jump on that
She
trampoline.
seriously
And
laughed?
she was like, mid 30s, maybe trampolining is,
Oh my
I was like,
God.
like I'm going to learn, I'm going to do that. And I will say now I can.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is where we are, right? Where, and I guess in her defense, most 30-year-olds probably shouldn't be jumping on a trampoline
Maybe, but I
today
think,
in America.
I think most pelvic floor therapists too aren't seeing young women. They're seeing older people who struggle with pelvic floor issues, stress, incontinence, leaking, and mostly older women, because when you have changes in hormones, like when your estrogen drops and perimenopause, menopause, your pelvic floor function actually decreases. So that's why we might see women who are older, when they're lifting really heavy, have more issues leaking.
More incontinence,
yeah. And it's totally hormone related.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's fascinating, because that is something that Yvonne deals with now that she's past menopause.
Yeah.
Is incontinence and having to deal with that. And so it's related to pelvic floor, and it's hormonal. That's fascinating. But there are exercises that you discovered that through research you figured out can help with that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So
like markedly help, like
amazing, night and day help.
Okay.
So like they call it diaphragmatic breathing or 360 breathing. So when you're taking an inhale, you're trying to expand your core as much as possible. You're trying to like push your pelvic floor down and your ribs out, filling that whole space.
Kind of thinking like a balloon.
Yeah, in all directions.
Yeah.
And then as you exhale, you're like pulling it all up.
Yep.
And like zipping up your core.
Yeah.
So that type of breathing paired with basically Coach Maddie's warm up. She does clamshells, glute bridges, a lot of stability stuff, bird dogs. If you can start pairing that kind of breath work with those movements, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
Game changer.
So, and
that's a huge practice within yoga too, is
Yeah.
like tying your breathing patterns and creating that tension with each pose and kind of moving through certain flow patterns.
And it takes a lot of practice.
Yeah,
I had no idea
sure.
how uncoordinated I was in breath work.
Yeah.
And like trying to actually feel some of those muscles fire, especially after pregnancy. There's some that you're like, I'm thinking about that muscle, but it's not moving. So that's where I feel like a pelvic floor therapist was really helpful, because they could kind of be like, hey, you're not engaging this particular muscle. And then I would just kind of make a note.
More a matter of like giving you like an on-site cue during that time. Okay.
Yeah.
So is this something that you just kind of do throughout the day randomly, or is it something where part of my warm up or I'm setting aside 30 minutes each day to work on this? How did you approach it? In
pregnancy, I would do it anytime I thought about it. So even like engaging and trying to like almost like hug the baby while I was pregnant. And then postpartum, I mean, you're kind of sitting around a lot. So anytime I could think about it, laying in bed, just working on the breath, not necessarily putting in any movement.
Okay.
And then there was like diligent practice, probably like 15 minutes a day. And now it's like I can look at the workout. I really struggle with things like overhead paired with running. I think something about that compound is hard on me. So I can look at the workout like, okay, we have double unders, we've got a push press and a run. I'm going to spend some time really warming this up, waking these muscles up.
Yeah.
And making sure I'm ready to go.
That's a good way to think about it, right? Is activation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than even almost exercise. Like
Yeah.
this is just muscle activation in getting that communication from your brain to those muscles.
Totally.
It's kind of like waking up that neural pathway.
Wait,
Absolutely. Yeah.
which is something we do a lot here, and we've done it, especially over the last, I want to say 4 or 5 years, but especially the last 2 or 3, is really worked on activation drills, and admittedly, a lot of it we stole from the athletes who were doing those activation drills before they'd get into their lifting. And the masters athletes, like Yvonne does a ton. Yvonne does almost 45 minutes to an hour of activation.
An hour of that.
And I know the difference now. Now that I'm in my 60s, I know the difference between not being kind of activated and then being activated. It takes me halfway through a Metcon where all of a sudden I realize, there's those pull-ups.
Right? Are you doing a lot of accessory work too afterwards? And just to kind of continue that communication from brain to body?
And it's something so simple. If I can work on that breath work anytime.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I try to, definitely. And then, when I'm coming into class, I'll do it all through our warm up. No one's paying attention to how I'm like, breathing.
Where did you get this stuff from? How does someone find it?
It's out there. It's everywhere.
Right.
I mean, there's too much information.
Just look up diaphragmatic breathing.
Look up diaphragmatic breathing to like see what it is. Yeah. But I think if you are somebody who has given birth, you have to unfortunately advocate to see a pelvic floor therapist. It's not part of like our postpartum care.
Yeah.
So making sure that it should be.
It should be available.
It should be. But you can always ask your doctor. They'll see you at 6 weeks, and you can ask them to assess if you have a diastasis, which is the separation of the abs, which you will get in pregnancy. It's just a matter of how much it stays after.
What's the severity afterwards?
Yeah, exactly. But all that breathing helps keep that core strong. So if you're doing that type of breathing in your pregnancy, you're less likely to have a severe diastasis postpartum.
Okay, that's interesting.
Annie Thorisdottir just had her second child, I think yesterday.
Oh, really?
Born. Yeah. Her son.
Congratulations.
Yes. And for those who don't know, Annie Thorisdottir, CrossFit Games champion and
2-time
long time CrossFit athlete, like since 2000.
Yeah.
I mean, she came back and podiumed after her first child.
Yeah, 2008,
she had that
2009.
awesome snatch PR.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So
it was
cool.
an epic year for her.
Yeah.
Just an amazing athlete all the way around. But her son, I don't know about her first child, but her son was C-section. So is there, and that was the question I was going to have for you is like, does C-section impact all of this? I mean, I imagine
you're maybe not experiencing the same type of birth trauma because you're not having a vaginal birth, but you're carrying a heavy baby for the same amount of time, right? And that there's a significant weight on your pelvic floor. You're still having all the anatomical changes. Your recovery from a C-section is, if you have a vaginal birth, they say 6 weeks. If you have a C-section, they say 8 weeks.
Yeah. Okay.
And then they have to cut through so much muscle.
Especially
right? That versus just the other side.
You're recovering from a surgery. So I imagine it's pretty, I've never had a C-section, but I got to imagine it's,
I mean, they say you're not supposed to walk upstairs for a while. Like you think about the abdominal wall trying to lift.
Yeah, in no way am I making any comparisons to C-section and what I experienced. All I'm saying is I had a hernia surgery where they cut through the abdomen, and it took me a while. It took me about 4
It's good
weeks.
disclaimer prior.
Oh, yeah. Don't even. I'm not making any comparisons. I was up and I was at them the same day. It is not the same thing. The only thing that was similar is that there was a cut in my abdominal wall where they repaired the hernia, and that took... they didn't want me lifting heavy weights for six weeks before I could kind of lift, and then not even heavy weights until they said, it's like 8 weeks. and I can move around, which is somewhat dangerous because as athletes, we want to. It's like, if I can move, I can do it.
Totally.
And so you had to scale everything.
Which that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Really,
Scaling.
mentally
hard.
Yeah,
huh?
I think that was the hardest thing with the pregnancies. I think being so fit going into that first pregnancy, and then having this expectation that I was going to come back super fit. It was like it was hard on my ego. I've let that go now.
Do you think that's mostly just the time off of the exertion, right? I think
probably I just didn't train well though through that
Oh, yeah.
pregnancy. You know, I think even this third pregnancy, just seeing that there was just more women pregnant doing CrossFit.
Yeah.
That it was kind of like, not to compare myself to like a Tia,
Mhm.
but it was like, oh, you can kind of keep doing this
Mhm.
in a way that works for you. And she's a super athlete. But I remember I was 25 weeks pregnant last year's open, and seeing the workout come out, the first workout, and being like so bummed. I'm like, no pregnant person can do this. There goes my open. And then she did it. And I was like, oh, maybe I can actually like do what's comfortable for me. Cool.
not only she do it, but she helped their team qualify
Insane.
for the next level.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
As one of the
It's nuts.
Yeah. And she took a ton of flack for that.
They all do though, right? And it's
the pseudo experts.
I feel like that's
on social
anybody.
media. Well,
kind of
that's
like,
true.
oh, that's questionable. You shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
Like,
are you in my body?
Just don't go to the comments. Like,
for sure.
Tia's Tia. Tia knows Tia. Shane knows
right,
Tia. Her doctor knows
she's
Tia.
an Olympian. I mean, like,
she's an Olympian.
You don't compare yourself. Even like here, it's been really like sobering too, because I might have in my head like, pregnant athletes shouldn't do that, and then I'm seeing our pregnant athletes are incredible.
Yeah,
I'm like, well, that
Alessandra
pregnant
Pacelli.
athlete can.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they say don't try something new with pregnancy.
Sure.
Don't maybe not
Oh, that's-
starting CrossFit.
I like that,
It's not
right?
is maybe a good recommendation. But
Right.
if you've already been doing it and your body is aware of those patterns and the positions, then it's not going to be as much of a hurdle. It's just figuring out when it is time to scale back.
Yeah, or what you're comfortable with. Like,
Exactly.
I am comfortable climbing ropes, but that was something I was like, I'm not going to do this when I'm pregnant.
When you look at the risk versus reward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like being upside down felt great. Your body releases this hormone called relaxin when you're pregnant that just makes mobility feel so good. So actually so much felt great.
Yeah.
Is it really called relaxin?
It's called relaxin.
I like that hormone.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Yeah, I need a little of that hormone. everyone who knows me, like, yeah, he does need a little of that.
You should hit up California Hormones, see if they got any relaxin on the shelf.
No peptides. I'm not, no TRT. I'm on the what is it? RRT. Relaxin recovery treatment. Oh man, I lost my train of thought on that one. We had 3 women that did the open full on, like 5-6 months pregnant, and they were amazing.
They crushed it.
Yes.
Yeah. I did a workout next to Cynthia, and I was like, okay, like, as long as I'm staying with Cynthia, like I'll be fine. And then she just lapped me. I was like, oh wow.
She beat me on
incredible.
Maybe all of the workouts.
This is a workout this last week.
Leander 2 is amazing.
Christy came home. She's like, Cynthia it was double unders and power cleans. Right. She was like, Cynthia just owned everybody in class.
She did awesome. And it's cool to see that because it's like, no, they're just fit individuals. Because I think even when I was training pregnant, people come up to you and they're like, you're so amazing. You're super mom. And it feels kind of patronizing. You're like, cool, things, but like I see her, I'm like, no, you're incredible. I actually didn't realize how fit you were until you were doing this pregnant. Right? Yeah. Like you're insanely fit.
And she's I've it's just being the paranoid old man. I go, Cynthia, just do it.
Sure.
No need to. And she's like, I got it.
Yeah.
And she's scaling for herself.
Yeah. You got to see what
she
feels
knows
good.
her limits.
Yeah.
And she's got, all the heart rate monitors and all that stuff. She can measure it all. And she's got Jackson, her husband, who's here all the time that, can tell her what to do. And she's doing awesome. And Alessandra too, same thing. Alessandra would have qualified for quarterfinals, but she didn't mark her last. She marked her last workout scaled because
she didn't think her thighs touched.
Yeah, her thighs touched the ground because her thighs didn't touch the ground because of her belly. Yeah. It's so cute.
So cute.
I know. she's and
stickler for standards. That's awesome.
Yeah, oh
good.
man,
Yeah.
no
Practice
question.
what you preach.
Yeah.
So then third pregnancy though, you up the ante a little bit in terms of your volume and intensity.
Yeah, it's like, if this feels good. I kind of had this realization that a lot of these general pregnancy guidelines are for the average woman in terms of like fitness and nutrition. And it's like, okay. I think when you spend a lot of time here at Diablo, you're kind of skewed what average is.
Yeah. Right.
And then
you are wearing a bubble.
Yeah. So it was kind of like a light bulb of like, oh no, this is, I'm not a Tia, but I'm not your average, woman coming into a OB appointment. So yeah, I kind of was like, I'm going to move and I'm going to stop if someone feels weird, but if it feels fine, I'm going to go for it. And I had a much better time training through this third pregnancy. I was able to stick with CrossFit a lot longer.
Heavier weights than previously?
Yeah, I think that first pregnancy, again, just going with extreme caution. I was like, I'm not going to lift over 60% of my 1 rep maxes.
Right.
And then I changed that to like, what feels good today? What's my 1 rep max for today? Or,
okay. So
I wasn't PRing or trying to go for it, but
so if it's so you would do the workout as prescribed if it felt comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you wouldn't purposely scale every single workout.
No.
Okay.
There was some that I could do no problem. And then there was some where it's like, I'm going to sit on the C2 bike for that or do a lighter weight. Or I was also kind of worried about, even in this third pregnancy, I didn't want to develop any like poor bar path habits and like going over the belly. And I already struggle with like swinging the bar out. And I was like, I don't need to like
increase
that. Yeah. So
that's by the way, that's a pre-2016 CrossFit athlete issue. Yeah, that's very common for athletes that started before 2016 here at Diablo anyway, because we all learned that kind of hip drive kettlebell swing.
Oh yeah,
the bounce. I'm not hitting the bounce.
I think I was told like, oh, it's so much easier if you bounce. Like I remember a female telling me that, and I was like, all right.
Yep. To all of our past members who were here before that, we apologize.
Yeah, we all have bruises mid thigh. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we actually returned in the grid league. We had returned some barbells back to Alico. They had lifetime guarantees, and they didn't believe it that we'd bent barbells. It was the women's barbells from doing hang power claims,
the bouncing it.
Yeah, the bouncing off the thighs, and it warped the bars. Incredible.
Wow.
Yeah,
those are some
the unbendable bars got bent.
Yeah, and by the way, Alico replaced them all.
Well done.
Yeah. We had to send them back proof, though. We had to send the barbells back because they didn't believe that it
actually happened.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, quick question: you said you went a little bit harder this third time around for the pregnancy. Would you say there was a difference in recovery from the first one when you were really lighter on that versus kind of continuing to train through the third?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. I was like ready to, I felt like I was ready to like come back and do CrossFit by like week 5, coming in with like the mindset to scale. Yeah. But I didn't come back to CrossFit in that first pregnancy until like 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
So I felt stronger. I felt like ready. My mental game was like willing to scale, which wasn't the first time. But I really credit that to maybe not necessarily going hard through CrossFit, but just learning how your pelvic floor works and that breathing and keeping my core really strong.
So kind of coming back into it with more skills and more tools and toolbox.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. Now, if we move from pregnancy training into now you've got to manage a schedule with 3 kids. You were teaching. When did you leave teaching?
I stopped teaching. Well, I went on maternity leave in 2019, had our first son. I was scheduled to go back to the classroom in March of 2020.
Oh boy.
And then kind of seeing all that writing on the wall and knowing that those kids had so much change coming at them. I was like, let's let them stay with the long-term sub that they had instead of like, hey, remember me from September? And it was like just a hot mess, being a teacher. I was like seeing how the sausage was made and was like, I'm going to step away from that. And at the time my dad has a company, and he was like, I'll teach you how to do this. You can work from home. I was like, okay. So worked for him for a year, and now I'm full-time at home
And now you're
with the
full-time.
kids.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Homeschooling.
And
So the youngest, obviously not, right?
no, she's 11 months
she's
old
11
as of
months old.
yesterday.
She's reading a book right now.
Yeah, she's a genius.
But your two boys are aged 5 and
Almost. We have a 4.5 and a 2.5. So
Okay.
homeschooling, I mean, hold that term
Yeah.
loosely. We're part of a homeschool co-op.
Okay.
I have every intention of homeschooling them TK through 8th grade. We'll take it year by year,
Yeah.
but that's kind of my goal.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, we do homeschool preschool.
Okay.
And
Right.
then we're officially like doing, we're registered with the state, letting them know we are homeschooling
Yeah.
in this fall.
by the way, that's not a hard process to do. I did that with my daughter. And the actually troubling thing about that is, I filled it out. I set up
You did the affidavit, right?
Yeah, I did the affidavit for Diablo CrossFit.
Yeah, you get to name your
Homeschool.
school.
Yeah, you get to name your school. So I named it.
Call yourself headmaster.
Yeah. But the surprising thing was, like, I did it and I felt weird, like, taking her out and then starting the homeschooling process. And, like, nobody reached out to me.
Well, there's two different ways you can homeschool in California. And California is actually, surprisingly to a lot of people, it's one of the easiest states to homeschool in.
Okay.
California, I think their history is very like libertarian, and the state constitution, at least for education, is really favors homeschoolers. So you can do what you did, which is sign an affidavit, say, hey, I'm homeschooling, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Or you can go through a charter school and receive funding from the state, which ends up being like $3,000 per kid per school year to use on classes or curriculum. And then if you go that route, you do have someone that checks in with you, keeps a transcript, all that kind of stuff.
That's right. So we didn't do that. We did the affidavit version, which worked out great.
Yeah.
And we used it because the online programs now for the parents to use are pretty outstanding. I mean, I've ended up finding a really good one that just worked for Alana, that kept her engaged, and she was able to get her work done.
And sleep. I remember you even saying that as as a high schooler. Just
yes,
that was the best thing.
Letting her sleep as late as she wanted. And she'd get up. She'd spend kind of an hour making that process, that transition from being asleep to school, and then she'd get in and do her work. And one of the things she figured out, and this is high school homeschooling, one of the things she figured out is that she could get through her schoolwork, like real true application schoolwork. And this stuff is matched, and it was actually even better than some of the stuff I was seeing at the public school. She would get through it in like 2.5 hours, which made me think, I'm like, okay, well, why are they at school all day? Well, they're at school all day. Well, for good reasons. One, it allows the parents to work while they're at school, but it's all the breaks that they get at school and the interruptions, and there's other kids, and there's all kinds of other activities going on. But the actual work she was getting done in 2 hours, and she's like, she has the rest of her day for herself, for artwork and for other stuff. So that worked out awesome.
Yeah, that's a big appeal. For us. Yeah,
that's and so the homeschooling process is not hard to set up, but you do need to be, as a parent, disciplined, and obviously then manage the oversight of it. Like, make sure that they're staying on track, make sure that they're going through the various different tests and quizzes and levels of testing that brings them up with their grade. But she's in college now at DVC, and she's having no problem with her keeping up with her peers. I got off on a track. You though now are, rather than focusing as much on homeschooling, you're focusing, because I followed some of your stuff on exposing your kids to outdoors, nature, and away from technology, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah.
So we are part of this. We participate in this 1,000 hours outside challenge, which was birthed from a homeschool mom in like the Midwest, Ginny Urick. She's an author, has an awesome podcast. And it's just a goal to spend 1,000 hours outside a year, which ends up being 3 hours a day. And her big motivator for that was our kids are just up against a crazy tech heavy culture. Kids were spending, they share the statistic every time they launch the challenge. Kids spend 4 to 7 minutes outside and doing unstructured play on average, and 4 to 7 hours on screens. And I think my time as a classroom teacher, I was seeing just each year kind of get worse in
Mhm.
regards to like kids didn't know how to play.
Can we go back to that?
Yeah.
Can you state that statistic again? Because I want people to hear that.
That kids, and again, I don't know what she's constituting ages, but
Right.
kids were spending an average of 4 to 7 minutes outside of unstructured play a day
Right.
versus 4 to 7 hours of screen time a day.
Screen time.
Yeah. And again, just as like as a teacher, I just saw kids like not learning how to play. They didn't know how to play outside. One year actually made their homework. You have to go outside and play, like, and write about it. Tears. Like, please, can I do
Really?
anything else? Yeah. And like even down to if I was sitting on like the floor with kids and, you know, wanted them to sit on the floor, how many couldn't sit on the floor because they didn't have like the core strength to like sit on their bottoms. These are like 8 and 9-year-olds. And they just
it's so
lost.
sad.
It's sad. They lost so much. And you gain so much from playing outside. You know, even like vestibular sensory input, like spinning,
Mm-hmm.
like
on a swing.
on
Or
a swing,
just-
you know, winding
yeah,
up a swing
yeah.
and letting it like
Yeah.
that for a kid gives them depth perception.
Yep.
It helps them with their balance. And so I was seeing like a lot of kids just like would run into things. I'm like, wow, you have like no proprioception.
Mhm.
And it's they're not playing. And that unstructured play is what is huge. So we try to get our kids, they're basically outside 90% of their day. Their feet are so callous. They are so cool.
Wow.
They're just
Love
barefoot and
that.
outside. And we see anecdotally just like what that does to their behavior. I mean, we get a lot of compliments, you know, your kids are really calm, they're well behaved. And like, I think it's because they've got really good inputs, you know, good nutrition, and they spend a lot of time outside playing.
Yeah,
And
let me. I'm going to give another disclaimer here. Like, okay, so I'm not comparing my dogs to kids.
I needed that one. Thank you.
But one of the things I like to say, my wife and I like to say, is a tired dog is a good dog. And people said that, you know, just letting your dog out back is like reading the same book over and over again. But I take my dogs every day and I go a different route. I go to a different route every day in a different place. And it's an hour every morning. And it's a pain in the ass when I start. But then once I'm like 2 minutes into it, I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And my dogs come back from that hour where they're just sniffing everything, seeing everything, chasing stuff, and seeing other dogs, interacting with other dogs. They come back and they sleep for like 3 to 4 hours. Like they're out cold, they're exhausted, and it's not necessarily physical exhaustion. It's just the whole mental exhaustion. So when you talk about the proprioception, like all of that is a learning process.
Totally.
And then taking that one step further, when people say your kids are so well behaved, well, they're like mentally they've been exhausted. Like they've done exercise essentially all day.
Their brain has been stimulated in a really good way, where like technology stimulates the brain, but it's in that like
sedentary,
but it's like a fast acting stimulant, you know, that then makes them crash. And then when kids crash, they kind of lose that connection to that prefrontal cortex, which holds like language and reasoning, which kids don't have a lot of to begin with. And then tantrums, and not to say my kids don't tantrum or have, you know, they're still kids, but man, just if they're having a hard time, if we go for a walk, we come back, it's just like, wow, that helped.
How do you think about that 3 hours a day or the 1,000 hours a year? Is it just, do you have your backyard set up, you just open the door and let them out back, or do you like, do you think a
being
park
outside?
Okay.
So I love being at home with the kids. We have like usually a really slow breakfast together. I try to eat every meal with them.
Yeah.
And then they are just eager to go outside, and then they love to be around Brian. Brian's just a workhorse.
Yeah.
And so if he's always outside doing work, and they love just working with daddy, and he's so good and patient about, right, here's your shovel, come along. Like, and so they're outside a lot. In that way, I hike with them. I have a goal to hike with them every Thursday. And that came out of trying to take them to parks. I learned I don't like selfishly taking them to playgrounds. It was like, I was a little more nervous because it's like, okay, there's a parking lot there. There's a weird van there, you know, just the mom thoughts.
Okay, sure.
My kids, I think because their temperaments are the way they are, they sometimes have like a harder time understanding other kids, you know, like this kid just threw sand at my face, Mom. Like I don't
Yeah.
know.
Why did you do that?
Yeah, they're kind of like, oh, that was lame, you know?
Yeah. Right.
And I just didn't really enjoy going to playgrounds. I mean,
Yeah.
they like it. They're kids. They love playgrounds.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I was like, what can we do together?
Mhm.
And hiking together has been super fun to do
Yeah.
with the kids. We all enjoy it. My goal for them is to hike as many miles that equal their age. So right now
Okay.
we're slowed down by our 2-year-old.
The little guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Girl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the baby is just on me. I
Okay.
just like ruck with her basically.
Yeah.
But it's awesome. We like take our time. We get to slow down. We recognize things. I've gotten good at like the logistics of how to take your kids out like that. So I
Mhm.
often have moms being like, "How did you do that by yourself?" Because Brian's gone. You know, when
Yeah.
he's gone,
Right.
he's gone. So it's
Yeah.
just me
Yeah.
and the kids. And you know, it doesn't always go perfect. But even like we had my 2-year-old couldn't carry a stick. It's like a really big stick he just wanted to carry, and he's 2.
Bring
so,
home. Yeah.
Yeah, he was really upset that
My
this
stick.
stick didn't, you know, carry the way he wanted. So he's really frustrated and kind of, you know, melting down. But he kept walking. So I was like, well, cool. Like, let's just keep moving forward.
Right.
And he worked through that frustration or that, you know,
Yeah.
potential tantrum so much faster because he
Yeah.
was like engaged in movement. And we've trained our kids to like do some breathing
Cool.
exercises when they're stressed. So he was doing the breathing and walking and then like calm down. And I was like, that wasn't so bad. I think
That's
at a
awesome.
playground that tantrum would have been different. You
Yeah.
know, we would have been stagnant.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Even with my now 20-year-old daughter, when you know there's emotionally challenging things, or she gets frustrated, or you know, I tell her go for a walk.
Yeah.
I literally to go outside. I don't even want to see you. I want to see you go take one of the dogs, go for a walk. Comes back a different person.
Totally. I mean, even when
It
you
works
have
for us.
when you have a newborn baby,
Yeah.
and they have like the witching hour or their colicky or whatever, they suggest, you know, walk outside with the baby. You know, it's like it's built in us as people.
It
Yeah.
really is. Go outside, get some fresh air.
Yeah.
It's like a reset.
It is.
It is a
totally
reset.
is.
Yeah. And leave the earbuds and the
Yeah.
everything behind.
Yeah.
Leave the technology behind. Just go. But it is, you know, mentally, I ran into a neighbor. I would see him all the time on my morning walks. We were talking about it. I said, yeah, I said I mostly do this for the mental side of it. I said, oh my God, so have I. Like I've given up on the having to go for a run to boost my cardiovascular, because that was kind of, that created a barrier to entry.
Sure.
Almost like it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I got to go for a run. And now when I think about it, like I'm just going for a walk.
Mhm.
But then you go out and you go or I throw a rucksack on, and
Yeah.
now I've gotten probably the same equivalent workout with just a rucksack, and then I end up going longer when I
Yeah.
walk.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends that will say like, how, you know, curious of just the logistics of like, how are you loading up 3 kids in the
Yeah.
car? How are you hiking?
Oh
with
yeah,
them?
that part, right?
You know, and I'll just kind of share with them like, it sounds fancy, you know, we're going on a hike, but you're just walking. You know, like that's all really all it is. I'm taking them on a walk outside. Like you
So-
can do it.
When you're loading up the pack,
Yeah.
right, for the little one, do you keep the middle, the 2-year-old in the car seat while you're getting ready to go, or
Usually
are they roaming? at
They're
that point?
roaming close. I always
Okay.
give them parameters.
Okay.
You can be here and here.
Yeah.
Oh, my 4-year-old is awesome helping me
Okay.
with like buckles
Yeah.
now.
that's
He knows
great.
how to do that. So I can just like bend down, like, can you buckle this one, straighten this one?
I could see that being one of those logistics. Like,
Yeah.
how do you manage versus the one that just takes off? It doesn't want
Sure.
to listen to a thing you're saying.
Sure.
That's Anderson. right
Anderson,
now.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, is that Anderson?
That's
When we-
1000% Anderson.
We have to like, when we have little ebbs and flows,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
the runner. So it's like, hey, before we get out of the car,
Yeah.
we're getting out of the car. I usually tell them my game plan. I'm gonna get Avila out first. I'm gonna put her in the carrier. You guys can climb out this way. You can be on the sidewalk. Do you see that tree over there? Everyone describe me
Yeah.
that tree. You cannot go past that tree. And that usually works for us.
Oh,
I
it's-
like that.
Yeah. So you set up guidelines.
Yeah.
Right away.
Guidelines
Right
and
out of the
then-
gate.
Oh, yeah.
Right
Yeah,
out of the gate.
right out of the
Before
gate.
anything else
Yes.
kicks off.
Yeah, and then I have like a whole breakdown process of
Got it.
after
Yeah.
more for like my sanity, because you know we hiked all through this winter, so it's like
Uh-huh.
muddy.
Yeah.
You know, so how do I with 3 kids? I usually put the baby in
Yeah.
the car first, and then I have like a tarp in the back seat the boys, take muddy stuff off, put it in a bag, and have a snack for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom used to have guidelines. we were going places. She'd lean back. She goes, if you guys, any of you boys, if you take off or if you guys get in a fight again, I'm going to pull this car over and you're going to get out of that car and I'm going to
walk it home.
and I'm going to take this belt
Yeah. You're like, oh,
with
yes,
everybody
ma'am.
in the world to
Here's
see.
your guidelines.
Yeah.
I'm 60, by the way. So this is what they used to do. Those are my guidelines. And we were like, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. You know, admittedly, my mom had 4 boys.
Yeah.
And it's like, so.
Yeah, it's a different animal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it worked.
Yeah.
But I like that idea, guidelines before you go. But what
I like the fact that you're engaging in them with those guidelines. Because
Yeah.
a lot of times
Yeah.
it'd be like, don't go past that point. But the fact that you're like, hey, everybody, you see that, you
Yeah.
know, like it's like a dialogue that you're starting with them.
Sure.
I could see that sticking a lot
Well,
more.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing. Well, and this goes with anyone that's starting a new habit like this, where
Mhm.
it's running, jogging, walking, taking your dogs out, taking your kids out, whatever it is. The first few times, probably the first 10 times, are going to suck. Each one's going to suck a little less.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then pretty soon you're going to walk in, you're going to get up, you're going to walk into the garage and all your stuff, you're going to have the right stuff right there.
Mhm.
You're going to have all the stuff you need. It's going to be right there and you're going to boom, get it in. And the kids are going to start to know what to do. They're going
Totally.
to find that pattern
Yeah.
and they're going to start to flow into that pattern.
Mhm.
Well, they say how many repetitions does it take to become like masterful at something? Like
10,000.
100?
I
Yeah,
thought it
like
was
a lot,
like
right?
10,000
Yeah, a lot.
something.
Yeah.
10,000 hours or
And I think in motherhood, I've
Yeah.
just put in a lot of reps. So
Yeah.
like, you know, expect chaos. I kind of have more ideas of
Mhm.
what
Right.
chaos to expect. I know to lay out some parameters before we go. So it's just just spending the time, you just get better.
Yeah.
at
And
it,
by the
you know?
by the 10th time, you going out taking walks, by the 10th time, it's going to be autopilot.
yeah.
Yeah, and the kids are awesome now. They know like what day of
Mhm.
the week it is, and they know like, are we hiking? They've got their favorite places we go. They usually know that there's food at the end. My kids are
Yeah.
huge eaters, so they're like,
So there's a
So-
reward.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
reward
Yeah.
incentive.
yeah,
And after a few months of doing it, it's going to get easier after the 10th time. And then after a few months of doing, what's going to happen is it's going to become, they're going to crave it,
yeah.
where they want to do it.
They already love it. It's
Yeah.
really cool to
Right.
see, because sometimes I'm like, oh, this isn't the coolest, you know,
Mhm.
hike, but
Right.
they love it. What they glean from it or what they're excited about, they're like excited. Because I usually do this when Brian's at work, and they're like, I want to bring Daddy to the creek, or I want to
Yeah.
bring Daddy here. You know,
Wow.
they're
Let's
like,
show them this tree that I climbed.
yeah, they're like pumped about it, and it's just cool.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And do you do you find yourself like pushing the boundaries over time? In other words, going a little bit further or going to more technical places to climb? Like,
it depends on the
are
day.
you ready to do the Dipsy Trail yet with them?
No, we're just getting
No.
outside. Yeah. I mean, I have goals and like aspirations when they're bigger. You know,
Right.
we'd love to do some of that stuff, but just for, you know, I'm still managing 2
Yeah.
kids' nap schedules.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I don't want to push them to a point of frustration.
Mhm.
They love this, and I kind of just see like, okay, they love it for about an hour and a half.
Mhm.
So like, I
Yeah.
just pour into that time, and you know, if they're starting to struggle at all, I have got little tricks. I pull
Yeah.
out magnifying glasses, and I'm like, oh, it's like, see what you can find on the trail, and then it's
That's-
like we get
there you
extra.
go.
a
You got
little
extra
boost.
20
Yeah.
minutes.
See, those are
Yeah.
that's all the secret things. Like
Yeah.
those are the things you're going to do. You are going to have, and I think the message here is you're going to have challenges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
not going to be. There's going to be moments where you have meltdowns. There's going to be moments where one of the kids not happy, but then
But you know what? But you're gonna get
learning all the
that
tricks.
if you're outside or if you're
Yeah, if you're
inside.
inside
Well,
too, right?
Yeah. So I mean,
If
might as
anything,
well
it's
be
probably
somewhere
more.
pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would probably, if I had my kids inside all day, I bet there would be way more behavior
Yeah.
issues I'd be like addressing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, and it's cool now that we do this. I have friends that are people in our homeschool co-op know that we hike on Thursdays. The kids, you know, talk about it, and they've like asked to join,
That's
and
cool.
it's cool. Or
Yeah.
people are starting to do it on their own.
Tell me about the homeschool co-op. That's something that I didn't do with my daughter, but what is that other moms getting together to kind of co-share
Sort
the
of.
education
There's
process?
different co-ops in the area. The one co-op I'm involved in is we meet on Mondays. We have preschool through high school.
Oh, wow.
Every mom is involved. Every mom has to be on campus. We actually rent out a church that used to house a school. So we have like a functioning
Oh.
school. Moms teach different subjects. Every mom has to be there. So legally, we don't have to register as a school or anything. It just looks like a giant play date
Mom
on
get
paper.
together,
Yeah.
right.
And these kids are doing awesome things. So what it does is supports the mom at home. So on Mondays, the kids are doing subjects that maybe are harder to do in isolation. They're doing their science, they're doing art, they're doing language. They do PE on Mondays.
And they're getting the social interaction.
They're getting social interaction and with different age groups, which I think is really cool.
That's
And it
really
ends
cool.
up being like actually like a more diverse group
Yeah.
of kids they get to interact with, because we have people that travel from Alameda,
Oh, wow.
Vallejo,
Okay.
Bay Point.
That's every Monday.
Every Monday. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
How long is that? Is it like a couple hours? Is it 3 hours or?
We meet from 8:30. I usually leave at noon just because I have kids that sleep.
Right.
It's nap time. Yeah.
Yeah, but they go till like 3:00.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like a school day.
It is, yeah. And the high schoolers meet then like throughout the week.
How
and
did
they
you
do
find that?
stuff.
Was that just Google or was that the Vista?
No. So I got really interested in homeschooling. And I was like, I think I want to do this with my kids. And kind of Brian and I, maybe like our approach to a lot of things with parenting is just find somebody who's doing things awesome.
Yeah.
And just pick their brain. See like, what's your secret sauce? What can we glean from you? We've done that in marriage. We've done that in parenting. And we have a neighbor who has 5 kids, 4 boys, and they homeschool. And I just started like asking her 1,000 questions. And she's like, "Do you want to just come see my co-op?" Like, yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Isn't that impressive? Way we had a neighbor when I first moved to Walnut Creek, and they had 9 children, and she homeschooled them.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And it literally was like a compound over there, and they were amazing.
I would
people.
imagine that might make things a little bit easier.
Yeah, well,
just
what happens
because you're
is the
not
older
stuck to like the schedule of
Well, it's
what
true.
a
And then the older kids were helping out with the younger kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah, so do I. 9 kids, wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But even 5 kids, like in today's day and age,
Yeah.
like that's awesome.
I mean, people think we're a big family. I'm like,
Yeah.
we have 3 kids. I didn't realize that's a big family.
Yeah.
Well,
But,
today it is.
yeah.
So ask around. Like if this is something you're thinking about doing, you see Anelyse in here, ask Anelyse about it. Ask around, ask people that are doing it and find out how they're doing it. Cause they'll help you shortcut the process.
Yeah.
Because I did all that learning online. And then I asked a couple people about the homeschooling process, and I was really intimidated. I was really nervous about doing it. I was like, no, this isn't going to be good. This is going to be good. And we did. I was like, oh man, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good. And I wish I'd done it sooner, actually, for my daughter's sake. It would have been this first 2 years of school were torture for her. But so ask around. And then there's the homeschool groups, the co-op groups.
There's a ton out there.
Yeah.
So then you can kind of find a group that fits like your educational
Values and
philosophy or what your family values are. And stuff.
So the state does have that. I remember the reimbursement. So
Mhm.
if you can get a reimbursement by partnering or joining a charter school program
Yeah.
where you're still doing the homeschooling, but you're part of a charter school, right?
Yeah. So, but that's confusing for a lot of people. The charter
Right.
school kind of just acts as like this liaison between you and the state. They
Oh,
keep
that's right.
transcripts.
Yeah, they keep transcripts. That's right, because they document the performance.
Yeah, and they
That's
give
right.
you funding for curriculum. They do kind of dictate what curriculum you can use and can't use because you're using state funding.
State
You
funding.
know.
I followed the state standards with respect to the education,
Yeah.
so you can pull them up. They're really easy to find.
And they're kind of ambiguous. You can
They
kind of
are. Yeah, you get some leeway.
totally. So.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. So and getting funding, because a lot of people there's no way I could afford to do that. And you find out, well, wait a minute, the tax dollars that you're paying that you're going towards
go
school
back.
now, just essentially you get back and you put back in your pocket.
And even I just filled out a ton of homeschool forms. You know, if we did fall into certain income brackets, they'll provide Wi-Fi for your home, computers. I mean, there's a lot there's a lot of resources out there that you can access.
That's interesting.
It's just really, do you have to have the time?
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
we're really fortunate to have me at home, and I want to homeschool the kids.
Mhm.
That's the other
Right.
big
It's
factor, right? Yeah,
important,
it's
right?
kind of like you need that too. So
Well, especially
There were-
with your background as
and-
being a teacher, like
Yeah.
you've got even a better understanding of teaching.
sure, I think I can read a curriculum
Yeah.
and it's not my first time reading that.
Implement
type-
it
Yeah.
real easily. Yeah.
Yeah, But what I also learned as a teacher was that parents care more about their kid than I do. And I would care about their kids a lot. So, and that's like a huge predictor of success. So people that are like, oh, I don't have a teaching background. I'm like, no, but you are an expert in your child.
That's a good point.
You can do it.
Yeah.
You know?
They can, and the resources online are remarkable. But the other thing with respect to time, and this was the big paranoia I had. Well, what am I going to do from how am I going to educate her from 9 until 3 in the afternoon?
You didn't have to.
And then you realize, oh, I don't have to. And then it became, okay, so what else am I going to have her do now that she's getting, she's ripping through her education, testing, quizzes, and all the stuff so quickly? What am I going to have her do those other hours? And it became things like for her became, we took her to a sewing class, right? We took her to fitness classes, all of those things that, and that's where you can just kind of fill in really cool stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a big draw for me. When the pandemic happened, I had one particular family reach out to me saying like, hey, this Zoom school is not working for us. Can you help me figure out how I can do this with our kids? We're just going to travel the rest of the year. And she kind of gave me, this is where we're traveling. And I helped her come up with this plan of learning that coincided with where they were traveling. And I was like,
man,
wait, this is so cool. Wait, I want to do this.
Well, here's the thing with that. Okay. Even if the education level was lower than what they would have gotten in school, the experience that is burned in those kids' brains for the rest of their life of doing something like that is just, I think, incredibly more valuable.
Yeah.
That's tremendous. Kudos to them.
It was rad. And that really was what made me kind of want to look into it. And then kind of just seeing some things with the school I was working at in that time being like, is this really what we're doing? Is this really what's best for kids? And, and then the way that Brian's schedule is,
firefighter, right?
Firefighter schedule, and just having boys and wanting them to really get opportunities to be around their dad. Just was really important to me too. And
more time.
To get more time with them, which
definitely
is
we
awesome.
Connected. We had more time with Alana. We went and did we do cool stuff together. We go trips to around the Bay Area, hikes and everywhere else. Here's the one upside to the homeschooling that was kind of it's almost a perk, is you can go places on vacation during the school year
when it's almost quiet,
no one there in the middle of the week. We could go
versus waiting for a spring break when everybody's there.
100%. That was one of the you go to Hawaii in February, right? And no one else is there, and you're like, yes, it's
beach to yourself.
It is the best thing ever. Instantly
makes for a fun classroom.
Yeah, there you go.
You can still do your schoolwork remotely. It creates better family experiences.
And not to say you can't have great family experiences with your kids in school.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying. I'm not
disclaimers.
To be clear.
Yeah. But
this
for us
podcast is full of disclaimers.
For our family, it's awesome because the kids get a lot of time with Brian. That if they were in school traditionally, they would be missing a lot of time.
One of the things that's a little bit of a challenge for homeschooling is that if your kids are into organized sports. It's a little bit more challenging for things like football, baseball, basketball.
It's getting easier.
Is it?
Yeah. There's some of these charter schools that have partnerships with local high schools.
Okay.
Our co-op was able to form a couple sports teams.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
participate
awesome.
with the other private Christian schools in the area. So it's happening. If your kids are really into their particular sport, sometimes that's the draw for homeschooling for some of these families, right?
Yeah, that's right. So Pacific Rim Volleyball next door to us here at Diablo is one of the premier volleyball organizations for kids in the United States and maybe even the world, because they've won world championships. And they, the kids are there. They can be there all day if you wanted them to.
Right. Or the Heather Farms has that really amazing synchronized swimming team.
Yes.
Most of those kids are homeschooled.
And horse kids.
Kids
that train and do all the horse competitions.
I'd imagine gymnastics too.
Yeah.
Yeah, gymnastics.
Are your kids playing, or is your oldest playing any sports right now?
This is his first year on the swim team.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. He's pretty good at backstroke.
Oh, here's Jackson homeschooled 6 to 8. Oh, to focus on my athletics.
Oh, it paid off, Jackson.
Damn,
That's a good
yeah.
investment on his parents' part.
Yeah. Didn't get him into semifinals.
Oh, hey. Dust hasn't
Come
settled.
I couldn't.
Too soon. Too soon.
Well, look.
Hey, there are people that might not show up though, right?
Well, that's right. So
Yeah.
Jackson's
When do they drug test?
amazing. Look, yeah. Oh, I didn't think I didn't go there. I just went. Maybe there's people traveling that couldn't afford it. Anelyse went right to the drugs. But Jackson, amazingly, in one of the toughest, arguably the toughest region in the world, Jackson is 43rd, 3 spots out from qualifying for semifinals, which are down in Southern California at the old Home Depot Center. But all those athletes, the 40 athletes that are ahead of him have to accept their invitation by May 2nd.
What's cool about that is because he finished overall in 51st.
Yes.
And after the adjustments, he only dropped. It's not like he had any adjustments
That's
that had to
awesome.
go up.
Right.
I think that's a big win.
Yeah. And he went to 43rd, and it's primarily.
Come on, man.
So wait, so tomorrow people have to say whether or not they're going?
I don't know.
May 2nd
But May 2nd.
May 2nd is when everything is solidified, right?
Well, yeah, it's when it's so they have to respond by tomorrow.
Okay.
Whether or not they accept the invitation. If they don't, and
then they backfill.
There's some that are international or not international, but Canada and then
Canada,
Mexico as well.
So there's travel involved.
And travel's expensive. And if you're down at the bottom of the leaderboard, and then there's a masters athlete or two, I think that could decide to decline.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all so they're we're saying he has a chance, but his performance is remarkable given the strength of field, and that it was really one workout that held him back, which he did 3 times. Yeah, which he did 3 times and improved each handstand into the ring muscle ups.
Well, it's cool. So we brought our kids to the open Friday Night Lights here, and they pretend to CrossFit at home. They just mimic us all the time. Yeah. And they were here for when Jackson did that rowing workout. Yeah. And in their minds,
they were sitting right behind him. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, they fight over when they play CrossFit at home who gets to be Jackson because Jackson wins.
Man.
Listen to that one, Jackson.
Yeah.
Hope you heard that.
Yeah. Which is just awesome. They just thought he won the whole thing.
Yeah, well, he did.
That was a pretty cool moment
it was
too.
Awesome.
That was definitely a cool moment.
Yeah, they were right behind him.
It's like right after they clicked over to that 300.
Yes, and just everyone. Woo!
Oh, it was such a cool energy in there.
Yeah, wow,
that's awesome.
Well, cool. So we've run the gamut here. Appreciate your time today. We went we went longer. We went an hour and 12 minutes. With great podcasts. Anelyse is here at the gym, or you can. She's on Instagram as well.
I didn't put your IG up there.
Yeah, you don't need to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I figured
it's not that interesting.
It's all about the family stuff. But I would say hit her up here at Diablo. If you have questions, you can email info@diablocrossfit.com. We'll get it to her and she'll respond. I know she will. But if you got questions about the 1,000 hours outside, her thoughts on homeschooling, strategies for homeschooling, all of that, I appreciate you being here. Oh, more importantly, all of the stuff, especially related to training while pregnant, pelvic floor stuff, because she's helped quite a few members here, and has tons of advice and insight with respect to that as well. So don't be afraid to hit her up. She's really, really nice, and she's freaking fit as hell. So
trying to be.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's gonna be a great year. Cool. No babies this year, Brian.
Yeah. Yeah, Brian.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Till next time.